Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I am Steven Conway. With me, as usual, Jeremy Finestone. We are contributors to the Fight Game Media Network, and we are here live here on YouTube and on your podcast feed, and we're happy to be back. We have a lot to talk about as usual this week. Royal Quest 3 took place this past weekend in London, England. We saw a couple of really excellent matches there. We have some New Japan presence at Bound for Glory coming up and part of the Impact group, and the opening of Super Junior Tag League 2023, plus more matches set up for big events down the road. So, Jeremy,
struggle.
It is a power struggle. Looks like it's going to be a big show, and we have Fighting Spirit Unleashed, a lot going on, but Royal Quest had dropped on NJPW World exactly. And there's a reason Jeremy's laughing, everybody, and that is because I paid for the Rev Pro month so that I could watch this, and then Royal Quest 3 dropped on New Japan World approximately 4 hours later. So by the time I was done watching the show, I had paid $10 for it. My subscription. Doggone it all, but there you go. Colin is with us. Colin, hello. I'm glad you're with us here today live. And Royal Quest 3, it's now on both services, so you can watch it. And overall, Jeremy, I'm going to throw this to you here in just a second. Your thoughts on Royal Quest overall, and then we'll go through the matches one by one. I felt that this was not a special show until we got to the end, but the last two matches made it special for me. I thought that the last two made it absolutely worth the time. And going into those last two, I wasn't sure that was going to be the case, but they pulled it off.
There were a few moments here or there where I was more interested than I thought I would be. The Drill and Maloney stuff and some of the Bullet Club definitely had me a little more interested. But I think I'm with you. I think this was two matches at the top of the card that elevated what was essentially kind of a New Japan Britain house show.
Yes. Yeah, there were some moments in this one that definitely felt very house showish. And but it was a well-wrestled show. I mean, I'm not complaining about the show. We all see these things, like a lot of these New Japan house shows, they're good shows. They're well wrestled. But yeah, it was a little bereft of special moments, I felt, until we got to the final two. So, but once we did, and then we got some things set up for down the road. So I felt like it was definitely worth my time once I was done.
Yeah, Will Ospreay's had a lot of special matches, but there was a little more special sauce in this match with Zack Sabre Jr., and I can't quite, and I'm not ready to go into it because that's not the way we have the show structured right now. But there was this little something extra on the top of this match that really just made me happy when I was done. It just made me love pro wrestling. If that's just the best way I can put it.
Well, we had the guy that might be the best wrestler in the world against the guy who's the best technical wrestler in the world. So it was a pretty exciting matchup, and in a place where there was a lot of history between the two. Again, we mentioned last week that Zack Sabre Jr. was Will Ospreay's mountain to climb. Zack was at the top first in Rev Pro, just talking about in Rev Pro. And part of Will's story was finally getting that big title win over Zack. And it took a few shots, and he finally did. And it was an incredible match then as well. And so seeing this again, there's a lot of it was just a lot of weight to that. And you can tell it meant something to both of them to put on a good performance, and they both did, of course. The fans were really into it. I thought it was interesting, Jeremy, that this was a New Japan crowd. This was there's a difference, like the Rev Pro crowd. And of course, there's a lot of overlap. But these were New Japan folks, and it wasn't the highest attended thing we've ever done at the Copper Box. We're going to talk about that. But the people that were there were very much into the New Japan guys. The most over guys were the New Japan guys. A lot of the traditional Rev Pro wrestlers kind of got mediocre reactions out of them. They were here to see the New Japan folks.
Yeah, there were guys that it was clear that there were stories, like Luke Jacobs and Yota Tsuji. There was clearly a backstory, as Chris Charlton and Gideon Gray were telling us throughout the show. But at the same time, it it felt like it was a spotlight for one guy, and the other guy was just kind of there to elevate him. And one of those, thank you for the opportunity, sir, kind of the way the match was wrestled. And, you know, I'd be interested in going back to seeing how they like what their match was like the first time around. But, you know, for what it was, like, everybody played their role to perfection. I think all the Rev Pro guys got a little bit more shine being in the ring with the New Japan guys, but this was a New Japan show, and the New Japan guys were made to look like the stars. And
yeah, they certainly were. And well, we have a month if you want to go back and look, because I paid for that subscription. Dunstan Williams is here. Dunstan, good to see you. He says, I'm kind of disappointed the show didn't feel must see outside of the last 2 matches.
Yeah. I'm glad it was just within my regular subscription. And I sat down and I watched a show, and, you know, no extra $10, but, you know, Steven Conway, you fight the good fight for this show, and I thank you for it, sir.
If anything, I donated a little bit of money to a wrestling organization that I like. So there you go. That's the way I'll look at it. And
Viva la Resistance, Viva la Rev Pro.
And then we had Gideon Gray and Chris Charlton on commentary. And Colin says, not going to lie, Gideon Gray drove me nuts on commentary. I enjoyed a lot of it. There were
moments. There were moments that he was just
a little much.
You know, you're veering into clown territory here, my friend.
Yeah, there were a couple of times it was an awful lot. But there were also some times when he provided some good context, especially within the British stuff, which they were talking about. So, you know, overall mixed bag there. And Chris was terrific as always.
Can we acknowledge that the audio on this show was terrible?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You couldn't really hear the crowd very well anyway. And then even the announcers were not. The announcers were very tinny. I thought just a very tinny sound to the announce quality. Man, it's just something that I don't understand why New Japan struggles so hard to mic crowds for NJPW Strong and those events. They just don't mic the crowds well. It's not really that much of an issue with the regular.
More of a Rev Pro. That was consistent with miking at Rev Pro shows, so I'm kind of leaning toward Rev Pro doing the production on this one. But New Japan has not composed themselves in a way in doing shows outside of Japan in which their consistency can be lauded as awesome all the time.
So this was at the Copper Box Arena in London. We drew 3,191 on this one, and we'll talk about how that's down. But it's a different card than past ones as well. So it's not apples to apples. It opened with Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori, and this was Taiji Ishimori's first time back in the ring since his injury during the Super Junior tournament. And what this one did crack me up, where Gray called Ishimori the original Captain New Japan, which I thought was really funny. And for those of you who don't get that, Ishimori is the Bone Soldier. He's the new Bone Soldier. And what the original Bone Soldier started off his career as Captain New Japan, the babyface masked man who basically just took falls and protected everybody on the Hantai faction. And then he turned, Captain New Japan turned, Jeremy, and he became the Bone Soldier in Bullet Club. And that is really when everybody understood he wasn't good. It didn't seem to bother anybody when he was Captain New Japan, and he was just not, the babyface was getting pinned. When he was the heel and he was starting to go over on people, everyone was like, oh, no. And
subtlety, huh?
he flopped as the Bone Soldier. So Ishimori came out as the new Bone Soldier, but he called him the original Captain New Japan, which I popped for. I thought that was very funny. But main thing is, this is Taiji Ishimori's first time back. It was a showcase match for him. Robbie X did get things in. He started the match pretty fast. Ishimori ended up working the arm for a while. X did a lot of dives, and Ishimori let him look good for a minute, but this was 7 minutes, 48 seconds, not very long. And a bloody cross finish for Ishimori to get a clean win. Of course, he's going to be challenging Hiromu Takahashi soon, so he needs to look strong. It was a chance for Ishimori to stretch his legs a little bit, shake off a little bit of ring rust, get a victory, and get some exposure for another guy who, could be helped by being seen on a show and losing. This did exactly what it was supposed to do. Nothing legendary. It was just good to see Ishimori moving well again.
Yeah, this from the get-go looked like a tune-up match for Taiji Ishimori to just get his legs back under him. after he's been out since June. And he showed up. We talked last week whether he was a part of Bullet Club or not. And it seems pretty clear from this outfit when he returned that it was more for style and pizzazz that he was wearing an all-black outfit. But he is, in fact, still Bullet Club as from his outfit when he came out here. Very, very clearly Bullet Club. Fine match. Yeah,
it was fine. Yeah, and I said that I thought Ishimori could use a new coat of paint, meaning that he could just use the breakaway from Bullet Club. It doesn't have to be a massive babyface turn, but just do something else. It doesn't look like that's in the cards right now. He's still a member of Bullet Club, but he's also still one of the best junior heavyweights on the planet, and that Hiromu Takahashi match is going to be great. So we have that.
So we got that coming up on November 4th.
Yep, part of Power Struggle. Speaking of which, should we mention Power Struggle? The idea that now, I'm going to mention this. We don't have an exact time yet, or even necessarily an exact date. Jeremy and I are still kind of working on that. But we are almost certainly going to do a live show on that weekend that we've got to iron out details on. But,
Saturdays are very, very tough for me to pull off a live show in the afternoon after watching a New Japan show. But I'm going to make something work.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
We're going to come back on Saturday, on the 4th. We're going to be here live doing this whole deal. And talk about the show.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, and we'll announce something more formal next week on that. But Power Struggle has the card has developed into something that we feel strongly is going to be a big show, and so we didn't want to do a Saturday show and then wait until Thursday to discuss it. So we'll be doing something on that weekend. So we'll figure it. We'll figure out the details.
For people who are checking in with us for the first time, we went back and forth between a live YouTube show and a recorded show with audio. And when we came back to live YouTube back in, I think, July, we decided that we were going to do live recap shows for the big shows. And, well, we didn't realize how big Destruction in Kobe was going to be, so we missed that one. But we've kind of kept an eye out for it, and we did one for Rikoku. We enjoyed ourselves. We're going to do one for Power Struggle and obviously Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm sure that there's going to be one or two shows between Power Struggle and Wrestle Kingdom, because there is a World Tag League final that we're going to have to navigate, in which, frankly speaking, you're going to get us live one extra time a month for the foreseeable future with the way that these shows are mapped out.
Be still our beating heart. So match number 2 is El Desperado and Trent Seven. So this was a very heel Trent Seven. He is definitely sticking with the heel approach, and the crowd reacted to him like a total heel, cheered El Desperado. 8 minutes and 8 seconds. They began with chairs in the ring. Seven brought a chair into the ring. Desperado brought a chair into the ring. And eventually Desperado went for a tope suicida, and he got crowned on the head with a chair from Seven. Starting to look like this could turn into some sort of hardcore match, but really didn't go that way. Seven eventually tore at Desperado's mask, which just pissed Desperado off no end. There was a ref bump, a light one, not a huge one. Seven got in a low blow and then a pump handle slam to tease a heel finish. Desperado did kick out and ended up getting the Estrella roll up for the flash win. And Desperado beat him, and later on in backstage comments, it didn't sound like this was totally over. Seven said he would leave Mustache Mountain and go to the ends of the earth to claim Desperado's mask. So this could be something we see again down the road. Wasn't too bad. Trent Seven's a really good wrestler, and this was fine. But again, it was only 8 minutes, and it was mostly to get Desperado a win.
Trent Seven is fine. I was curious throughout the match when I think Chris Charlton said that he had a record after leaving NXT of 20-8. And I was wondering, who are the 8 people that Trent Seven lost to before he lost to Desperado? You ready for this?
Yeah, let's hear
it. Joe Hendry, Orange Cassidy. We got Steve Macklin. We have Michael Oku, LJ Cleary, Javier Vives, and Charles Crowley. That's it. Okay. There are a few others at the beginning that are like names, and then there are a couple others like, it looks like Trent Seven is elevating a few other people along the way.
That's probably where his sweet spot's going to be is having good matches and putting people over there for Rev Pro at this stage in his career.
I enjoyed this match, and frankly speaking, I haven't watched an El Desperado match that I haven't enjoyed in quite a long time. He is money in the bank when it comes to watching New Japan matches.
And of course, he'll be teaming with Master Wato in the Junior Tag League tournament.
Hell yeah.
So, after that one, we had Yota Tsuji and Luke Jacobs. That was our next one. So we had the first one went 7 minutes, 48 seconds. Next one went 8 minutes and 8 seconds. This one went 9 minutes and 1 second. So we're starting to ramp up a little bit here. And Luke Jacobs is Ishii in a 23-year-old British body. Very similar in moves and style. And the fans were into Tsuji in this one. And like I said, it was a New Japan crowd. Now, Tsuji, of course, did his excursion with Rev Pro, or part of it. He also was in CMLL. And Luke Jacobs was one of the people who beat Tsuji while he was on excursion. So Tsuji had a little extra steam on this one with Luke Jacobs in mind. He worked to put Jacobs over early a lot, though. He bumped around for Jacobs, showing off a very Ishii moveset, the big shoulder blocks, the forearm exchanges and things. But in the end, he got a very big stomp, and then a Gene Blast spear for the win on Jacobs. Just a flat out clean victory for Yota Tsuji. Then he threw Jacobs out of the ring afterwards as a particular screw you from a loss he had suffered Jacobs in the past. But
receipt.
Yeah, and again, a nice little showcase victory for Tsuji here.
So this is one of those matches where I call what happens when an irresistible force meets an immovable object. And it seemed like the irresistible force won this one this time. Yota Tsuji was pretty fantastic, and you were right. There was a lot of Ishii in the Luke Jacobs. And they actually had a match pretty recently that is pretty well lauded. And I probably learned a lot from Ishii in that match. On how he does it well.
He does it well.
How to be a small heavy if need be. So, and he's not that small, but he's not huge, if that makes any sense.
No. He looked good, by the way. Jacobs, I think, is a talented guy. And there's a couple of comments here that'll help us out. And Dunstan says, of all the Rev Pro guys, Jacobs would be a good addition to the roster in 2024. I don't mind seeing him again at all. I did enjoy it. And then Bill Bird said that Charles Crowley is ace, but he wrestles with Progress and not Rev Pro. So there you go. So Trent Seven's been working for other companies as well as Rev Pro, and apparently Charles Crowley is one of their guys. And
it was a TNT World Title match in Belgium.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I'm looking this all up at Cage Match, and I'm just filtering all the results here.
All right.
I'm nothing if not scientific and researched.
We had another title match up next. We had the IWGP.
Oh, I like this one. I like this one a lot.
Junior heavyweight tag team title match. We had Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney from Bullet Club. They faced Leon Slater and Cameron Kai. Leon Slater and Cameron Kai, both teenagers, by the way, 18 and 19 years old, respectively. Kai is 18 and Slater 19. And Bullet Club, of course, showcased these two guys' athleticism, and they could do a lot of very impressive stuff. A lot of flying moves from them. I believe it was Kai that just ran across the ring and did that whole somersault senton over the turnbuckle, over the post. Very Ricochet-ish. Back when Ricochet did that move on, I think it was Kota Ibushi. That's a great match, by the way. If you want to go
recklessly amazing athleticism.
Yeah, very impressive guys, and that was great. In the end, though, of course, this was going to be the win for the Bullet Club team. They did manage to hit a high-low spear on Kai that looked great, but he got out of the full clip. He got out of that move, and but in the end, they ended up getting the no chaser on him, a Drilla Killer on Slater, which I'm sure he's going to break somebody's neck, but he does it perfectly almost every time. I mean, it just is a devastating looking move. It's difficult to see through. You're just like, oh my goodness, every time he hits that. And then they got the full clip on Kai for the win. Maloney knows what he's doing in there, but again, Connors and Maloney have really turned into a good team. They are heavily featured, as we're going to get to, in the very opening days of this tournament. They're facing a lot of their toughest opponents early on. So big couple of weeks for Maloney and Connors. I think they're going to step up because I enjoyed this match quite a bit. It went 12 minutes and 2 seconds, and I think that there's a bright future for both Slater and Kai.
I agree with you about Slater and Kai. I think Maloney, there was a point where he just got very, very confident with himself in this gimmick with Bullet Club, and it's been off to the races. And Clark Connors has kept up with him every step of the way. I feel like Maloney's kind of getting a little bit more of the spotlight. The attention is just kind of like the camera wants to follow him in a lot of ways. Like he just has that charisma. But man, this Bullet Club tag team is one of the most potent, interesting tag teams to be in New Japan in a while. I think that they are lighting a spark in the rest of the tag team division just from their aggressiveness.
This whole War Dogs version of Bullet Club really suits Connors and Maloney, and especially Maloney. He just fits with what this is trying to accomplish. Jay White's Bullet Club was sneaky mean.
Calculated.
They would calculated, and these guys are just getting shot out of a cannon to people. It's just aggression. It's just anger and a straightforward aggression.
It's like there's a guy with a chain link fence, and they're gonna pull the door, and it's like go, and they're just like, all right, let's wreck some shit.
So let's take a look at some of the guys that were former members of that Jay White Bullet Club. In the next tag team match, we had a 6-person trios match. We had ELP, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa against Alex Coughlin. We had Gabriel Kidd, who would play into things a little bit in a way we didn't expect, and David Finlay. So this one was an interesting one, as it turned out. It was a very house show match. Like this was really dialed back from almost anything else in the show, and the crowd kind of died during this one. El Phantasmo had to get him going again with a moonsault from the top rope to the floor, which that'll work. And of course, ELP has a long history with Rev Pro. They triple teamed Finlay, and Tonga Loa hit the ape shit to beat him in 10 minutes and 41 seconds. Tonga Loa, which means Tonga Loa and Finlay will square off in a singles match. I will admit I was not picking Tonga Loa to pin Finlay in this situation, but there it is, and they'll be having a singles match down the road a little bit. But in the end, really, this kind of felt like a house show babyface finish, make the crowd happy, and without any heels taking any great damage. That's how I took on this match.
Honestly, I am at a point where every time I see Tonga Loa, I kind of wish it were Hikuleo there, and I never thought I would be saying that, but I think Hikuleo has come farther than Tonga Loa, even though Tonga Loa's been out on injury and, still getting up to speed. I just think Hikuleo is a more rounded performer. And so every time, he's not there and he is, it's kind of like, okay. So that doesn't really do much for me going forward to a singles match with Finlay and Tonga Loa. I do kind of think the writing's on the wall that this is one of those people that's going to get fed to Finlay in order to reheat him as one of the top guys, which if you don't think that he's getting reheated to the main event scene after losing this title, that's pretty much what's happening here. And I think Tonga Loa is the first guy, the guy that beat Okada, the guy that, got he did beat Okada in a count out. Which one was it? Or was it Ospreay? He got Ospreay in a count out. In the G1, do you remember?
Slept since then.
I think he got the count out when he got G1.
Yeah, something like
Ospreay. So he's kind of gotten, he's a guy with a little bit of clout, but it
was Ospreay because Okada criticized him for it. That was what it was.
It was. So this is just one of those. We are passing the time feuds. This match was a fine past the time match. There are bigger and better things for all the guys combined. And, GOD versus Bullet Club has kind of worn itself out, in my opinion.
And then we have Dunstan mentions here, it says, New Japan released a video of Clark and Dan, and those two feel balanced in terms of importance. Neither one feels like a weak link. Yeah, that's well said. And they do different things, don't they? They're not just two guys that are doing exactly the same. Coughlin and Kidd, of course, have their own charisma. And Coughlin be looking like the straightforward nutcase, and Gabe Kidd is an excellent example of a guy who seems to have been a wild dog let off a leash. He just seems to just tear into things, which we saw a little bit there. But Dunstan mentions this match was mostly filler, and yeah, it was. After that, we had a tag team match, straight tag team match. This was Shota Umino and Ren Narita against the United Empire. That's Great-O-Khan and Francesco Akira in this case. 10 minutes, 25 seconds. Good stuff overall, but again, another house show type of match. Nothing wrong with it. Death Rider finish. Shota Umino ended up getting the pin, and they did not tease any dissension at this point with Umino and Ren. And I guess it's a little too early for that one. And you're already kind of doing that with Tanahashi and Ishii, although they're starting to get along, those two. But or at least that's what the story they're telling right now. So, you know, that they're already kind of doing that dissension among the partner thing. And so Umino and Narita were a united front here against the United Empire and got the victory, of course. You know, that was going to be the way all along. We expect to see Narita and Umino in the World Tag League, probably see Okan with either Hanare or Cobb in that tournament. So, you know, this is going to be one where Akira can do the job and get this new team over.
Okay. So I'm here for Shota Umino and Ren Narita as a tag team, as we as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, though, this match layout was weird. After like 8 minutes, Ren Narita never went back into the match. It was almost all Shota Umino.
Mm-hmm.
Ren Narita got knocked out of the ring around the 11th minute, about 2 minutes before the match ended, right? He's holding Okan outside the ring for the pin as Shota and Francesco Akira do their match layout. There's almost no synergy between the two. There's no like effort at double teams or tandems or anything like that. It's literally two guys doing their own thing and it being enough to win this match. And I thought that was really curious because it wasn't just like, oh, all of a sudden, like, we're on the same page. We train together. We're like, we're going to do all these moves and we're going to have like clotheslines together. I'm curious to see how their build as a team goes forward from here because it was incredibly disjointed. Even though they got the win, they did not win as a team. They won as two guys that were tagging together. And that's a huge distinction.
Post-match comments, they did share a handshake afterwards, but there's not a lot of warmth. They still stood several steps apart, and they're eyeing each other warily. Of course, we have a feeling how this is going to end, and it's not going to be pretty with these two. So we do not expect them to get along for very long right there. So, and Colin says the match was great, but I'm not used to Shota and Ren being buddy-buddy yet. Yeah, it is a little...
Well, they're not even buddy-buddy. They're just tagging.
Yeah, they're just tagging together. So up next, we had a preview tag of the main event, which was Sanada and Doki against Bushi and Tetsuya Naito. A couple interesting things about this one. They only went 9.5 minutes, one of them. There were a lot of that was a delay or mind games from Naito. Sanada did get the Paradise Lock on Naito, which doesn't happen very often right there at the very top level of guys in New Japan. Oh, every once in a while, Okada has been in it before, and Naito got in the Paradise Lock here, but the people booed. There was a little bit of a booing going on right there. So no surprise, but the crowd is already starting to line up behind Naito for that one. And this is my point about it being a New Japan crowd. We had a Doki Choki chant. The crowd chanted Doki Choki when he clamped it on, which means... that shows just how much of a New Japan crowd it was, because the only place you've heard that is if you watch World. If you watch NJPW World with Gino Gambino and Kevin Kelly and the gang. So very much a Japan crowd on that one. So the Destino on Doki to win this one, that was how they isolated things. They had Sanada on the outside with Bushi. And then, Naito needs to win these matches for sure. And he needs to get the win on somebody other than Sanada. After the match, they did have a face-to-face with Naito and Sanada. Bushi swooped in and blew the mist in Sanada's face, and Naito just dismissively tossed him out of the ring. So that was a bit of a babyface thing right there, because, again, people are behind Naito, and they just seem to have a pathological need to make Sanada look weak.
This has always been a weird build for this entire Wrestle Kingdom. We're going to be trading, wins back and forth the entire way through. I told you there's going to be a drinking game for this going on all the way through. We are underway. We are in the first inning of win trading for the next 3 months, and I'm okay with it so far. I have to mute myself for just 1 second. So, Steven, you keep on going.
All right. Well, that's fine. And yeah, it was interesting that they did have Bushi do the mist thing and throw Sonata just out of the ring very dismissively. And again, we've talked about how they booked Sonata kind of weakly, and this is another way that they did it because he didn't really do a whole lot, and he kind of looked upset about it, but not a whole lot. I expect Sonata to get a lot of wins on this, and hopefully he'll do something to get a little bit of revenge on that because they kind of made him look like a chump right there. But again, babyface finish, the crowd was definitely on Naito's side. So, and let's see. Dunstan has a comment here that I think is worth mentioning. Do you guys think Gedo lacks much creativity when it comes to the build for this match at Wrestle Kingdom? That's an interesting point. I'm not sure it's that so much. I don't think it's that so much either, but right now this is a train that is just rumbling forward with Naito doing that roll call. I mean, it is all about that to me. And it's just it lacks creativity. I don't know what else you do. You know, you have these preview tags, and Naito had to look good here. Sonata's going to look good other nights, and it's just kind of how New Japan always does these things. So, but I guess maybe the fact that they always do it like this might lead that it's maybe not the most creative angle that he's ever come up with. But there is a very straightforward story that seems important to the New Japan fans, which is getting Naito that win, that title, that roll call, that moment that people have been aching for ever since he kind of turned himself babyface through sheer charisma, because of course remember he was a heel when he first came up with this gimmick, but we didn't get it against Okada a few years ago when Naito won the G1. We didn't get it when he did win the title from Okada and then was assaulted by Kenta afterwards, and he didn't get the roll call. I just feel like all of this is just leading to that, and right now, Jeremy, I think anything else would really disappoint New Japan fans.
Okay, so I'm with you. I'm of two minds here, or two trains of thought. One, this is a very traditional build towards a main event program. If you go back to the two paths that have been set back in February here, Naito was left off of the last Wrestle Kingdom card, and then he did the main event at the Wrestle Kingdom in Yokohama and the Muto retirement match, and so he had a different pathway, and he wanted to make sure that he was in Wrestle Kingdom, and he had his chance to do it, and he felt like this was going to be his last chance. At the same time, Sonata back in February was losing over and over and over, and oh my God, he was losing so much to the point that we were like, this has to be a storyline that he is losing this much. He then won the New Japan Cup in March, and then they've been heading towards this ever since. And so I don't think it is necessarily like predictable or lacking. What was the phrasing of the way that
does it lack creativity? Does the build lack creativity?
I don't think it lacks creativity. I think there's a fan service aspect of it that they want to give you a story that they feel that is owed to the fans before they can't do it anymore. We are actively getting into a new generation of talent that is going to be taking these main event spots. The Reiwa 3 Musketeers, as well as Yuya Uemura. You've got Finlay. Who knows if Will Ospreay is sticking around any time longer. It's like, there ain't a whole lot of time for Tetsuya Naito to be getting his one big opportunity to main event Wrestle Kingdom. And if Sonata's ever going to get a chance to do it, this is one and only to solidify his legacy so he can be a guy existing on the Japanese wrestling circuit for the next 20 years, getting the polite claps and applause as a former IWGP main event attraction. So, this is a big picture kind of match. I don't think it lacks creativity or anything like that, but it is necessary for the health of the past, present, and future of Japanese wrestling to have this match and have it where they're having it.
There are certain notes that you kind of have to hit, don't you, when you're talking about a New Japan angle, and we're just kind of getting through those notes here. We'll move on to the next match.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll be seeing more Sonata and Naito against each other for sure. So we had a trios match up next. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Eddie Kingston, and Michael Oku against TJP, Jeff Cobb, and Hanare. This one was the first real nod toward Rev Pro. They took good care of the Rev Pro champion in this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's Michael Oku. First of all, note Eddie Kingston was over with that crowd. They were loving them some Eddie Kingston. This one went about 10 minutes, 39 seconds. He and Hanare, of course, went right at each other. They're going to be part of the Fighting Spirit Unleashed in Las Vegas. And it was good stuff with he and Hanare. And that was just a little preview between them. And the rest of it was just everybody getting a few of their key spots in. Oku accidentally hit Eddie with a knee, but it didn't really turn into anything because Oku ended up wrapping up TJP in a 3/4 Nelson for the win. So in this case, in this moment, this was the Rev Pro portion of the show where their champion ended up getting the pinfall, looked strong, and looked good. I thought Oku had a good match and got the victory. There it is. Everybody goes home, babyface finish.
All right, so got to get a little bit of crow here. Who will be the X in the Super Junior Tag League? I came here and I said, you know what? I think Michael Oku is going to win this match. He's going to pin TJP, and then he's going to turn around and become the X in the Super Junior Tag League. Almost all of that happened, except he's not the X in the Super Junior Tag League. I was wrong. My grand theory did not pan out, and I like to take credit when I'm right. And so I am eating the bag of S when I was wrong. But I did not eat any bags of bad stuff watching this match. I did truly enjoy it.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice. Up next, the number one contenders match for the Never Openweight title. Now we're getting into the part where this show turned special. So we had Shingo Takagi and Tomohiro Ishii. This one went 21 minutes and 26 seconds. It was exactly what you'd think from these two, and it was fantastic. There was a very long forearm exchange segment to open the match, and they hit each other hard. They hit each other often. They fired up on each other. Just when you thought one was down, he would come up with something big to knock the other one on their rear end. It was exactly what you would want from these two. They even had a German suplex battle to go with the forearm battles and the chop battles and everything else. A German suplex battle. That led to a double down where both guys were exhausted and beaten. Made in Japan only got a 2 count from Shingo there. And there were just a bunch of really good near falls and strategic 1 counts. That whole thing where somebody hits a big move and just out of sheer defiance, the other guy kicks out at 1. We saw each guy do that in this match. One of the stiffest pumping bombers you'll ever see in your life from Shingo to Ishii after a Death Valley driver. That was fantastic. There was a brain buster by Shingo. So he used Ishii's move on him. That only got a 1 count at the 20-minute mark. Finally, we got a Last of the Dragon for the 3 count. This was a tremendous match. Hard to do it justice just verbally. This is one that's definitely worth going out of your time to see. Fantastic one there. After the match, Tama Tonga, the Never Openweight champion, came out and they made the match for Las Vegas. So he just said right then, there was no waiting around. He just came out, talked to Shingo Takagi and said, you, me, and Fighting Spirit Unleashed in Vegas. That will be the title match. So Shingo going after the Never Openweight title, something we predicted here on this show. It's the only thing that really made sense for Shingo, who's been floating around a little bit this year. He had the King of Pro Wrestling thing going for a while, and he and Taichi brought honor to that trophy. I think he did the stuff with Hanare there that was all excellent. And then he went a few months where he didn't really have a whole lot to do, and we wondered what it was going to be. Well, I think this is a good place. I don't know if he's going to beat Tama Tonga or not, but he's a wonderful contender for that Never Openweight title for a couple reasons. One, he could win it, right? The title's in jeopardy having Shingo there. He brings credibility to Tama Tonga if Tama wins, and Shingo can put people over without really losing a ton of steam. You don't want to do it too often. Right now, I think Ishii is kind of in a thing where he's putting people over a little too often. Wouldn't hurt to get some wins for that dude in there, but I am not going to complain an iota about this match. This was exactly what we wanted. Loved it.
I don't disagree with the word you said. I tremendously enjoyed this match. It was hard-hitting. It was passionate. It was everything I love about pro wrestling. You should go out of your way to see it if you have not. And once again, the C bracket from this year's G1 continues to deliver. after the G1 has concluded, let's go over this block again and think about all the great matches that have come as a result of this bracket from this past year. We had Tama Tonga and Tomohiro Ishii and Shingo Takagi and Mikey Nichols and Hanare and Eddie Kingston and David Finlay and Evil were all in this bracket.
And they have bracket, we called it.
Yeah, they have managed to, all the people that didn't make it into the second round, they have managed to milk some feuds out of it, and it has been fantastic. We still got Eddie Kingston and Hanare coming up. I kind of, if I'm going to be honest with you, kind of see Shingo Takagi like winning that title. I just, Tama Tonga has accomplished what he needed to win that title back, and he can lose it at any time. And I was kind of penciling Shingo Takagi in as a guy who could win that New Japan TV title. But hell, if you want to have him win the never Openweight, it doesn't matter. Just belt Shingo Takagi.
Well, again, we're setting things up for the Tokyo Dome, and you need people who the fans are into. Remember, it's still a big part of New Japan's business to sell these tickets. Yeah. Ticket sales haven't been great this year, so you need to put your big draws in big roles in big situations. We expect some kind of dream match with Okada. We'll get to all that. We know we're going to get Naito in the main event. Naito, probably their most popular wrestler. We feel confident that Will Ospreay is going to be in some form of a wonderful special challenge match.
You don't think it's just going to be a tag match somewhere?
I don't think so. But Shingo, right? This is a guy that people do like and people do respect. And I think it would make a lot of sense for him to go into that as a champion. There's another alternative, though, and Dunstan has it. And I think this is a good point, too. Is it bad? No, it's not, Dunstan. Is it a bad thing that I think Shingo should win it and go into World Tag League and win that, too, with Sushi? I wouldn't even argue with that. I think that Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji would be an excellent choice to win World Tag League. I mean, that would be a good way to launch Tsuji in a way too, and get him in a prominent spot. So all roads lead to Wrestle Kingdom for Shingo in some kind of big match, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, the World Tag League wrinkle makes me think that Shingo isn't winning this match, which is totally fine, honestly. I just like making conversation. Shingo Takagi pleases me. I don't care if he wins or loses. That's kind of how I think about it with Shingo Takagi. There were very few matches, Steven, that could possibly follow this match. There were very. We found one. You ready?
The main event was for the IWGP US UK heavyweight title, and it was Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. Now, let's talk about this one. 31 minutes and 19 seconds, and it was absolutely wonderful. We've talked until we're blue in the face about the year that Will Ospreay is having for very good reason. He's having one of the best years I can remember a wrestler having. Let's not forget that Zack Sabre Jr. is having one hell of a run here, and he's not winning the matches the way Will is. He's putting people over in them, but man, every time Zack walks to the ring, something special happens. Every time Will walks to the ring, something special happens. So it will be no surprise at all that these two had one of the best matches of the year, and I feel like we say something like that every other week. This has just been the wonderful in-ring year for professional wrestling, maybe one of the greatest of all time. When you really look at the number of brilliant matches we've seen over the past year, and a lot of them have these two names in it, one of them or both. So this one had a lot of great chain wrestling early. It was terrific. Chain wrestling can be a way to burn time. This was not what was going on. These were two highly skilled guys showing off what they have learned over the years. Ospreay tried a handspring kick to the head. Instead of the handspring elbow, he comes off and then does the spin kick and kicks the guy in the head. Zack turned that into an ankle lock, which was a feat of timing that was pretty damn impressive. Oh, let's see. There was just a gorgeous wrestling counterfest for the first 15 minutes of this one. Very even. That's important. They were not playing it as any one person having the advantage and the other guy selling. That wasn't what this was. This was two very even wrestlers going toe-to-toe and coming up with wrinkles on each other's offense because they know each other so well and they're such fierce rivals. That was a story here, rather than one guy beating somebody down and waiting for a comeback. Different structure. Will hit a sky twister press, and then later he hit a leap of fate. It only got two. It wasn't even really considered a finish at the time. more work on Will's arm. You know, Zack has all those ways of like twisting the arm, and then he'll, you know, take the back bump and kick the arm. He did a lot of that. And the first 20 minutes of this match felt like 5. You're just sitting back and
went by
enjoying it.
very fast.
And it felt like they could go all night. We've talked about the cardio of these two in the past. They were not breathing heavy at the 20-minute mark whatsoever. They started picking things up at the 25-minute mark. Again, this did go over 31 minutes, but 25-minute mark, Hidden Blade was hit at that point. And then not long after that, Will hit a Stormbreaker and Zack kicked out. That doesn't happen very often at all. So it shows that they were putting together something important for this, because Zack kicked out of a Stormbreaker. That's a move they protect. It's not as protected as the One-Winged Angel or anything like that. What is? But nevertheless, that's a move that does not get a lot of kickouts. They worked toward a Zack comeback after that. He had a bow staff for a really good tease of a finish that way with a submission or a referee stoppage, but Will was able to get out. Zack hit the Zack driver for a really good 2 count. At the 30-minute mark, Will got a super os cutter that looked fantastic and off the top. And then he tried a Stormbreaker, but that was reversed into a Cobra Twist. Will managed to get out of that, hit a Hidden Blade, triangle. This is something they did a couple of times where Zack would get a triangle on Will. Will would power it up into a power bomb and get out of it that way. Finally, another Hidden Blade and a proper Stormbreaker for the pin. This one was amazing. And in a moment that I really enjoyed, Will offered his hand to Zack afterwards. Zack did not shake his hand, but instead grabbed Will's head on both ends, kissed the dude on the forehead, and walked out with all respect. Wonderful, wonderful match. One of the better New Japan matches this year, in a year that's been filled with great matches. I mean, worth your time, worth the subscription to New Japan World for the month for this one match right here.
I really enjoyed this match. This was you talk about Will Ospreay having special matches all year round. This had special sauce on top of that special match. I think for my money, this was his second best match behind the Kenny Omega match at the Tokyo Dome. I think that was how good that this match was. In addition to that, as much as you want to say that wrestling Chris Jericho in front of 81,000 made him the king of British pro wrestling in a lot of ways, there's an argument to be made that this was actually the match that like solidified what he means to British pro wrestling more so than that. Like, there will always be, for the cameras and people who learn about Will Ospreay, that he wrestled in front of 81,000 people and won. But if you are to dig deeper into the legend of Will Ospreay going backwards, like say, in hindsight, you're going to come across this match and a few other matches around it. You're like, yeah, that was amazing. But what was really amazing were these matches here, there, and everywhere. And we don't talk about Zack Sabre Jr. enough, man. Like, he's going to be around when Ospreay and Danielson are done. Like, he has a style that will allow him to continue doing this for an incredibly long time. Longer than Ospreay and Danielson are probably going to be able to do a long time career. So what we're seeing from him is special. The ability to see him for the amount of time that we're going to get to see it is special. This whole thing was special. Please go see this match. It was special.
Indeed it was. And Will is being pushed like the absolute world beater here. And what was nice is that the title was in jeopardy. You didn't really know. Maybe Zack was going to get this, especially with the idea that Will might leave. But let's talk about what happened after this match. There were several different things that went on that were worth mentioning. I think I believe Will when he says he's not sure where his future lies. I think I believe him. I don't think he really knows yet. He came off very sincere afterwards to that London crowd, just saying, I don't know, guys. I mean, this maybe this is my last run here in Rev Pro before I'm not able to do these anymore. Maybe it's not. I think I believe him that might not be totally sealed yet. So we'll find out. And the thing is with this, I don't think he would just lie to the crowd like that. So I really believe that it's in question, especially with this finish, right? Because if you know he's leaving, maybe you get that title off on to Zack, and that there's just a lot of psychology involved in that. So afterwards, he issued an open challenge, which was answered by Shota Umino. Shota came out and said a few words that Jon Moxley taught him that we won't repeat here on the show, which was very funny. Will said that he can have a shot. And then Great O'Khan came in the ring, whispered in Will's ear, and he said, "Oh, okay, you can have a shot at the UK US title." And another point about that, Shota kept saying, "Bring both titles," as if they are two different things, and he repeated that in backstage comment, both titles, not the UK US. So we'll see. Maybe there are two belts in this, and like we need more, right? That's I kind of got the chills when I heard that. I says, "Please don't tell me we're going to split that up." But
yeah, we need more belts in New Japan. Let's do it.
Yeah, why not? I think I'll have one before too much.
More belts in pro wrestling. What could go wrong?
So anyway, point is, Will said he can have the shot if Great O'Khan can wrestle Jon Moxley in Osaka. And Shota said he would make a call. Now, of course, they're not going to say that if the answer is no, right? Especially with a babyface like Moxley. And so Moxley babyface in New Japan, I mean. So that sets up an idea that Moxley is going to wrestle Great O'Khan in Osaka. Shota will challenge Will Ospreay for the UK US title. Also brings us to a point where Mox can win that match and then do some kind of promo, set up some kind of challenge for January 4th. That's where I think this is going. I think you agree there too, Jeremy, right?
I think so. Yes.
You feel good about that?
I feel good about... I was looking up something at the time. I need you to repeat the last part of your sentence. I'm so sorry.
Love of God. All right. So glad you pay attention. No, I just said that.
I was looking at something about Shota Umino and Will Ospreay, and I was ready that you asked me something completely different, and I blew it.
I was saying that this is a chance for Moxley to beat Great O'Khan and then inject himself into the Tokyo Dome somewhere. We're making a special challenge to someone in Osaka for the Dome.
Yes. I have some thoughts here about where Jon Moxley goes here. And okay, so we got to pull the thread here a little bit. Thank you for setting me up and me completely blowing that.
It's okay.
That transition for you. I'm doing great here today, everybody. Okay. Last year at Royal Quest, do you remember who Will Ospreay faced at that show?
The Royal Quest 1 or 2?
Royal Quest 2 last year.
You put me on the spot here. Who was it?
It was Shota Umino. And he lost by referee decision.
Yeah.
Then we did a go back at the historic X-Over where Will Ospreay beat Shota Umino again. So I find it really interesting that we are revisiting Shota Umino and Will Ospreay a year later to the immense trouncing that Will basically gave Shota Umino last year. It seems like we are getting towards Jon Moxley and from the Shota Umino link and the Great O'Khan Will Ospreay link. But here's where it gets tricky. Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay had a singles match a year and a half ago in Chicago on a strong show. For me, that seems incredibly weird to do that as a rematch at Wrestle Kingdom. I'm not saying it's impossible, but man, what a freebie you got if you went to the Windy City show, New Japan Strong, back in April of 2022. It was, in fact, the last time that Will Ospreay got his ass handed to him by anyone before he went on that incredible run, starting with the Orange Cassidy United States heavyweight title match at Forbidden Door 2 last year. It was Forbidden Door. Was it Forbidden Door 1 or Forbidden Door 2?
I think that was the first one.
It was the first one. That's the first Forbidden Door.
Yeah, second Forbidden Door was Kenny in Toronto.
It just feels like there are so many Forbidden Doors that open and close that I lose track at this point. 2, that might as well be a dozen at this point. Anyways, so you have that match. Now, could we do Moxley and Ospreay at Tokyo Dome? Sure. No one's going to complain about that. But I kind of think that Moxley and Ospreay is a heater for Moxley and Danielson, and then we end up with Okada and Moxley instead. Those are two matchups that are both fresh, have been teased in some way, shape, or form, and doing them at the Tokyo Dome will scratch a lot of itches for everybody, including the wrestlers. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go. I think we're going to really find out in Osaka on November 4th, which is not that far away. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what combination they come up with for that, because they're not going to want to waste Moxley. He's going to be in a very important match against somebody pretty big. So
and January 4th is what, on a Thursday this year?
And so's our show. So there you go. And Bill Bird has a couple comments I want to get to, because he's right. Virus, a luchador there, is still going in Mexico in his 50s with a similar style to what you talked about with Zach, Jeremy. And he's right. And that's a guy that's a good comparison, because Virus doesn't get talked about enough. Older guy, but hasn't really had to change his style too much. Hasn't taken the pounding. Right, just had not a ton of dives and things, but just does that type of style. So good call. And then Bill was making a prediction here. He thinks a split contract between New Japan and AEW. We'll see if Tony wants to do something like that. That could be something that they could work out. I feel confident that AEW guys can be part of the New Japan story. Now we had that whole idea with the alliance of with MLW and CMLL and the storylines of it. Fine. But I think the more important one is that AEW and New Japan are still going to be working together. And so I think we could definitely see that. As far as a split contract goes, I'd be curious to see how that would be worked out. I don't think it's impossible, because perhaps splitting the money might be something that New Japan would want to take a look at, just because of the current economic climate. So possible.
I don't see Tony Khan as a guy who's inclined to give anyone else the right of first refusal for any talent that he is paying for.
That's the hang-up, isn't it?
With that said, I do believe that Will Ospreay has the most leverage of any contract negotiation in the last 3 years between WWE and AEW as a free agent. I'm not talking about guys that are going back and forth between New Japan or AEW and WWE. I'm talking about people that are not on the board with either company, and is someone that is now open to negotiating with both. That being said, I think this is completely uncharted territory. Will Ospreay will basically get whatever he wants if the company that signs him is smart, and I think that's the play.
Afterwards, there was another angle, by the way, which was Will was in backstage comments, was beaten down by Gabriel Kidd. Attacked him, choked him out, beat the hell out of him. Gabriel Kidd. So either something is going on with Will and Bullet Club moving forward, or it's just simply one match with Gabriel Kidd. They did pick the British guy, so that could be something set up for some sort of Rev Pro or England angle to come. But Gabriel Kidd was the choice to beat up Will in the backstage comments. So
I wonder if that plays into bring both belts.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something like that. Yeah. We'll see.
Maybe one belt for one guy and one belt for the other guy, and they split the belts up for sure. I mean, I don't love the idea, but you have to introduce the option of that being a possibility if we're being responsible.
Dunson says, I think having one or two AEW top guys is enough. New Japan needs to showcase their roster to the fullest at Wrestle Kingdom, especially if Gaijin talent will be leaving. Fair point. You don't want to make this thing like a half an AEW show and then not be able to follow up on it. So, but again, we're talking about, it's just such an important thing to sell those tickets. Like New Japan is finding other revenue stream. We found that out in that business presentation they had, that they are doing better with licensing and they're doing better with merchandise worldwide. That's been better, but gotta sell tech. You don't want an empty Tokyo Dome, and right now Sonata's in the main event. Yes, Naito is also, but you're gonna have to have something special to put people in those seats. So Gabe Kidd is getting a shot at Oku's title on Saturday. Maybe it'll be Ospreay versus Kidd at Kingdom for both the British titles. Ospreay and Kidd at Wrestle Kingdom would be a tough. That would be a challenging use for Ospreay. I think.
It would be disappointing for me if Ospreay's opponent was Gabe Kidd. I don't think he's been built to that level in which he would be credible at Wrestle Kingdom. But, down the line, I think that is entirely possible for a big show. I just don't think that that's what they have set up for those guys there.
So we're going to wrap things up with the Copperbox Arena Royal Quest 3 show. I got some information on Copperbox, by the way. This building was built for the 2012 Olympics. And do you know what sports it hosted in the 2012 or the 2012 Olympics in London, Jeremy? He did say it on the air, but I thought it was interesting. It was the handball facility. Handball, by the way, team handball is a sport that should be much bigger than it is. Fantastic sport. It also hosted the modern pentathlon. Now, I don't expect you to know what.
Give me a chance to guess.
Well, it was just so weird. Okay, here you go. Can you tell me what the 5 sports are in modern pentathlon?
No.
I couldn't either. I had to look it up, and it is the most random thing. Listen to this. Modern pentathlon.
Okay.
Feels like they took all the Olympic sports, put them all in a hopper, and drew 5 of them out. Here they are.
Shot
Ready?
put?
Fencing.
Okay.
Shooting.
Okay.
Swimming.
Okay.
Horse jumping.
Okay.
And running.
Okay, so it's everything you need to survive in the wild.
And they should just call it the Bear Grylls tournament.
Yeah, the hunter-gatherer skills.
What a
it's
weird
the life skills of Olympics. Anyway,
what a weird thing. You got to go get a horse, you got to get a pool, you got to get a gun, you got to have a sword.
Honestly, if I'm being honest with you, it seems like a sport in which you are bound for glory.
Oh, my Lord. Well, all right. Just hold your horses there, pal. By the way, 3,191 was your show jumping horse, apparently. That's the one you need for the modern pentathlon. So hold him for a second. 3,191, not a great crowd, Copperbox. The first one, the first Royal Quest, was in the same building. It did have a better lineup, but that one drew 6,119 back on August 31st of 2019. Of course, in 2019, much better days for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And just to go back, that one was Okada over Minoru Suzuki in the main event. Tanahashi beat Zack Sabre Jr. for the Rev Pro title on that show. Kenta defeated Ishii for the Never Openweight title. The Gorillas of Destiny, still with Bullet Club, defeated Aussie Open, one of our first looks at Aussie Open in that time. And Will teamed with Robbie Eagles. They were still the Birds of Prey, and Will was a junior. They beat Ishimori and El Phantasmo. And I thought this one was interesting, Jeremy. Not the first time Umino and Narita have teamed up in the Copperbox Arena. The very first match was Taguchi, Umino, and Narita against the Roppongi 3K team, Rocky Romero, Sho, and Yo. That was the opener back then.
I can't say that I knew that or remembered it, but I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah, so there you go. And Bill Bird says this all sounds like Mountie training, the modern pentathlon.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you've graduated from the Boy Scouts, and now you're just like you're a venture scout or an adult scout, and you want a gold medal.
So let's look at the week ahead. And as Jeremy teased earlier, we are bound for glory this coming weekend, I believe. It's Saturday night, isn't it? The Bound for Glory pay-per-view for Impact. We've got some New Japan folks on it. And
wow, that render of Will looks real familiar.
Yeah, that's true. We have Will Ospreay against Mike Bailey. Speedball Mike Bailey and Will Ospreay at Bound for Glory. So, boy, that's going to be a terrific one.
He's got that, and then he's got a match the next night against Josh Alexander, which is all about the angle award about whether or not he's going to be winning a world title against Alex Shelley, and whether this match with Will Ospreay is going to be a world title match. We'll get to that all in a second, but this is going to be a fun one. I don't think it's going to be at the level of some of his other matches, but they are probably motivated to have a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm. We also will see Chris Sabin against Kenta, and that'll be for the X Division title.
Yeah, I know you're gonna love this match when we get to talk about this one. It's like you're a huge Kenta fan. You love everything about him, so we're gonna be enjoying that one. And then here's the match that we were talking about, the fallout from Bound for Glory on the 22nd. So I'm not sure how we're going to be able to watch that. I think it's going to be taped and then aired later. But if Josh Alexander wins his match the night before against Alex Shelley, this will be a world title match, which makes me think that Alex Shelley will be winning that match, because I cannot see Will Ospreay both winning the Impact World title or losing to the Impact World Champion at this point. So just call that an educated guess, although I've had to eat a bag of crow so far once, and I am willing to do it again for the sake of this show next week.
There you have it. So we'll see what happens with Bound for Glory this weekend. Super Junior Tag League will also be starting up that same day. It starts on the 21st. And we found out who X is. We know now that Yo will be teaming with Musashi. Now, Musashi here, there's a picture of him. He went to Yo.
I put his
went
name
to
in the middle of the chest so you can figure out who,
that's helpful. Yeah, Musashi's on the right. But yeah, he is a Michinoku Pro wrestler, so part of Taka's group there, or was originally. He's been wrestling for 13 years. He's a former junior heavyweight champion in their organization, former tag team champion in their in Michinoku Pro. So it'll be Musashi who is teaming with, and he's actually not all that easy to Google because there is a sumo wrestler who rose to the rank of, I believe, Yokozuna. I think he got to Yokozuna right, named Musashi Maru. So if you try to Google him in Japan, you try to put Japanese wrestler Musashi, it's going to take a while before you get to the Michinoku pro wrestler, because all the articles are about a famous sumo guy. So yeah, but there it is. Musashi is going to be teaming with him. And Super Junior Tag League will open on Saturday, October 21st in Saitama. Interesting schedule coming up. They're doing Saitama, then they're going to do 2 nights in Korakuen Hall, then they're going back to Saitama, but a different building. There you go. So
every time I see Super Junior Tag League and I see the render of Show, I start laughing. It is so ridiculous. Look at this. Yeah, look at him. He's so happy to be the king of pro wrestling.
Yes, he is. He really is. And Dunstan says he's very interested to see the tag league this year. Musashi looks like Marufuji if he was younger. Yeah, he kind of does. He does look like young Marufuji.
I am completely fresh on that guy. I am really excited to be able to, talk about a guy fresh out the gate and have some content that way.
Yeah, Colin says he's good. So I'm looking forward to seeing this too. I think he and Yo will be good. Yo is he's somebody that they always take care of in this tournament, no matter who his partner is. And so it leads to a lot of interesting thoughts. And because in Saitama on the 21st, here's what I mean. We're getting a couple of preview tags and things underneath. And then the 5 tournament matches are going to be on opening night. Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita against Francesco Akira and TJP. Mm-hmm. Kevin Knight and Kushida against Taka, Michinoku, and Doki.
Okay.
The DKC and Taguchi against Master Wato and El Desperado. So that feels like a Wato Desperado win. And just like Kevin Knight and Kushida feels like probably a win over Taka and Doki there. Again, here's the upset special though. Yo and Musashi against Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors. Do you just bring in Musashi as a mystery guy and then beat him? It's an upset special. I'm just saying, keep an eye out for that. And also Titan and Bushi against Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. The only teams, when I look at this lineup, that I say ain't going to win, DKC and Taguchi, not going to win. Taka and Doki, not going to win. You can almost say it about Maloney and Connors just because they have the titles, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put the champs over in the tournament. But maybe this year they do, right? I mean, this is a very interesting, even tournament, and I think it's going to be one of those where there are a lot of teams in it on the very last day with all the twists and turns, maybe all but the 2.
Yeah, we went through the first and the final day last week, and it felt like there were 2 matches that could give you the real idea of where they were going with the top 2 teams that end up with the whole thing. And there's 5 teams that could win this thing, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. It's going to be fun. We have a heel team that is currently the champion, so you can kind of ping that it could be a babyface team, but there's a lot of contenders here, man, and I'm just excited. And we're underway on this, but once we get a sense of the first couple of nights of interplay, this tournament's going to go by real quick. We got the 21st to the 4th to the 2nd of November. 10 nights, we're in and we're out.
These shows are coming.
Blink and we're done when it comes to the Super Junior Tag.
These shows are coming thick and fast, folks, on NJPW World. Ooh. And it's going to be under the current structure. We're going to get to that because the New Japan World, we know, is going to be undergoing its changes on the 9th of November. So this will still be under the old format. But they're also going to be at Korakuen Hall on Tuesday, October 24th. Now, that one has an extra match in it. Bolton Oleg is getting his TV title match against Zack Sabre Jr. that night, in addition to the tournament. Again, it would be a gutsy call to change the belt right here. I'll believe it when I see it. I think, the Bolton will probably get more offense than most young Lions would against Zack.
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll see how that goes. So October 24th, this is one, of course, that was delayed when Oleg had the wrist injury. Then he got a bacterial infection. That all cleared up pretty quick, but it did force the postponement of that match. Here it is on the 24th at Korakuen. The main event is, again, we talked about how Maloney and Connors are heavily featured early. Mm-hmm. Akira and TJP against Maloney and Connors that night. So catch 2-2 against Maloney and Connors at Korakuen Hall on the 24th. And let's see. On the 25th, they're back in Korakuen, so 2 straight nights. That one will have the Jet Setters against Maloney and Connors. So Jet Setters, catch 2-2, and in the first night they'll be facing Yo and Musashi. So 2 former junior heavyweight tag team championship teams in the first 3 matches, and then the new guy with Yo, who is always taken care of in this tournament. So again, they're playing heavily into this story from the very, very beginning. And then Wato and Desperado will face Titan and Bushi in a match that'll probably be fantastic that's on the 25th in Korakuen. Then they're back in Saitama on a different building on the 26th, and that's going to be Wato and Desperado against Fujita and Eagles, and also Titan and Bushi against Maloney and Connors. So, again, Maloney and Connors don't get
fast and furious, man. Fast and furious.
But they don't get an obvious win in the first 4 matches of the tournament. No DKC and Taguchi, no Taka and Doki, all that stuff. So interesting book. Interestingly booked.
I imagine they'll probably have a fluke loss near the end that they'll end up having a title match for before we even get to Wrestle Kingdom. So that should be interesting too. Hey, before we go any further, I would like to make a plea to anyone listening right now. If you are currently watching live or you are watching after the fact, this recording, go ahead to the YouTube channel, hit that like button on our comments and our show. I can't tell you how much it helps to get the algorithm when you have the thumbs up on the YouTube video. So if you're watching it, please and thank you. Let's get back to it. We got the card for Fighting Spirit Unleashed, right?
And we're going to do our main preview of this next week. So we're not going to do the analysis here. But
we're just going to run down the card in the order that they've announced.
We have a couple more matches. So, of course, as they mentioned, Shingo Takagi and Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight Championship has been added to the card. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that.
This is officially the main event.
Yeah, I believe it is, isn't it? And then we have a couple of kickoff matches, too, that are newly announced that we'll get to in a minute. We're also going to see Naito and Hiromu Takahashi against Sonata and Uemura. Eddie Kingston defending that NJPW Strong title against Henare in that long-awaited match. ELP and Hikuleo, the Strong tag team titles against Alex Zane and Lance Archer. We got a taste of them a few months ago. Zane and Archer actually look pretty good together. I'm looking forward to this match.
Okay.
Julia against Hayan for the NJPW Strong Women's Championship. I'm really excited that I'm going to get to see Julia, 5-star Grand Prix winner and former World of Stardom champ right there in Vegas.
You're going to be live, man. That's exciting.
Yeah, 4th row. Atlantis. Oh, and talk about legends. Oh, my God. Atlantis Jr., Mystico, Hiroshi Tanahashi. My God. On the other side of it, the biggest heel in Mexico, Rocky Romero, Soberano Jr., Tiger Mask, and Adrian Quest. I mean, I don't really care who wins this one, but my goodness, the idea that I'm going to get to see all these guys in one match is pretty damn fun.
Thank you. I'll take 1 ticket, please.
Yes, sir. Filthy Tom Lawler against Gabe Kidd. And 2 mentally stable human beings, and what I'm sure will be a wonderfully technical, a lot of wrist locks and headlocks in this one.
Tom Lawler is hometown, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah, and again, I'm setting my girlfriend up for the George thing. It's going to be great. And then women's tag team match, Stephanie Vaquer and Zeusis against Uvia and Johnny Robbie. So some of the CMLL ladies there are getting a showcase match.
When was this match announced? I feel like
that was a couple weeks ago. A few weeks ago. Yeah, we've had this for a while.
Okay.
And then Satoshi Kojima, Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, Jeff Cobb for the that is going to be a 4-way match right there. So we also have this one that has been announced. So we have the pre-show match. So we have a couple of kickoff matches. Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, and Danny Limelight from Team Filthy against, and this is Bailan Aki, Titus Alexander, and Jacob Austin Young. So some new names there. We haven't really seen. And Colin was mentioning this earlier. He said, I'm going to bring his comment back up right here because I was like, it was Colin, wasn't it? Yeah. Let me get it back up here. Sorry, Colin. I don't know if you know who Bailan Aki is, but he's having a match at the Fighting Spirit show, and he's excited about it. It's an interesting.
Find out who Bailan Aki is.
Yeah, Titus Alexander has been mostly working indies over there on the West Coast. Jacob Austin Young we've seen on Strong before. So, yeah, there you go. And then next one is a couple of guys from the NJPW Academy there in Los Angeles that are getting a kickoff match. Matt Vandegrift and Buck Skinner, who, much like the band, doesn't know how to spell his own name. So there you go.
Vandegrift feels like he came from the school of Bateman.
Yeah, it looks like he is. Or he's been watching Marty Skrull tapes with the steampunk look there with the glasses.
I'm going to go, I hope Bateman, because I don't like to invoke Skrull.
Oh, well, I understand that. By the way, Dunstan had a comment here that he's probably right. I have a gut feeling that the junior tag belt will be defended at a 4-way at the Dome. Boy, they love doing that, don't they? Just put that junior heavyweight tag team title in a 4 corners match. So that's Fighting Spirit Unleashed.
And we'll talk about that more in full with our thoughts about how that's going to go, especially you're going to be packing a bag and going right out the door after the show.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm flying out Friday for that. And
that's exciting.
Go and see you two at the Sphere on Friday and then New Japan on Saturday. It's going to be a great trip.
You're going to have to tell us about the Sphere too, because that sounds like pretty amazing stuff going.
Looks pretty trippy, doesn't it? Looks pretty trippy.
It looks pretty amazing.
I'm excited. No, it's going to be cool. I haven't seen you two in 30 years.
Not quite as amazing as the Power Struggle card.
It's coming together, isn't it? I mean, this is a neat little show. So let's talk about this. We have new matches announced. Now, the one we already knew about was Hiromu Takahashi defending the junior heavyweight title against Ishimori. Definitely looking forward to that. And then we have the never openweight 6-man titles on the line. Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii against the TMDK group of Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, and Zack Sabre Jr. I mentioned Zack trying to be a belt collector. He's getting a shot at everything, or defending the TV title, one of the two.
Zack Sabre Jr. is everywhere. He should be everywhere. He should be wrestling everybody. And the fact that he is makes me happy.
And we also have Sanada, Yuya Uemura against Naito and Tsuji in our contractually obligated Tokyo Dome preview tag.
Did you hear why he called himself Heatstorm?
Yeah, I did, actually, because he's supposed to be the polar opposite of the Cold Skull, right, Sonata?
And I don't know how a heat storm is opposite from a cold skull, but smile and nod, Steven. Sounds good to me.
Whatever works for him. And then we are going to get Shota Umino against Will Ospreay. So that should be an interesting one there as part of that Power Struggle show in Osaka.
I am excited for this one. I think because they have not announced the World Tag League, we could probably assume that Shota and Ren are in the World Tag League, and people going in the World Tag League probably won't have singles belts going into it, just, given the dynamics of the way New Japan works. So you can kind of read what I'm trying to say here without saying it, but I'm still going to be enjoying myself immensely as we recap this match live on November 4th. You like what I did there?
And was that all of them? Or we have anything else for that one? Yes, Great O'Khan and Jon Moxley. So Great O'Khan and Jon Moxley, we assume they've just said that Shota's going to make a phone call. We expect Moxley to answer it.
And there's one more.
And we have Tonga Loa and David Finlay. And
last but least.
Yeah, it is. But it is a way for Finlay to get a win and to look properly mean. And there could be, I'm calling angle alert on this one. I don't think this is going to be the only thing David Finlay does all night. And I don't know what the rest would be, but again, the leader of Bullet Club has to be in a prominent position at Wrestle Kingdom. That's important to the company.
He'll be something big. I just, if he's not, he's going to be having something big almost immediately afterwards. That's one of those things that they do is, Jay Whiteism is to pick the bones, and Finlay is certainly willing to pick the bones as we've seen in the past.
So good stuff coming up. So next week on the show, we're going to be previewing. We'll talk about Junior Tag League. So we'll have 4 shows of Junior Tag League to talk about. Then we'll also have Fighting Spirit Unleashed to preview, which should be a consequential program. There are several title matches, could be some angles coming up for things, and then just a special show altogether, including the debut of Walker Stewart as our new play-by-play voice for English commentary there in Las Vegas, definitely. And then, of course, Lone Star Shootout is coming not too far after that. Lone Star Shootout is probably the first event we'll see under the new NJPW World format with all the improvements. Hopefully, they're improvements. I guess we'll find out.
It's on World and not on Fight or whatever.
Yeah, I guess we don't have that formally announced yet, but that could very well be the first thing on World we see under the new structure. So, a lot
Do
of
we
things.
Have any more comments to go over before we wrap this up?
No, just Colin mentioned that Aki's great. Just watch him go when he gets in the ring. Okay, well, we'll look out for that. I'm excited about it. I always like seeing new guys and new talent, and that's something that New Japan seems to be real high on right now. Is working with other companies, bringing them in. Not just Musashi, but we've seen it in a lot of places with these frontier matches now, where we're going to be seeing some indie talent against New Japan talent, and I think all that's healthy for the business overall. I do believe that a rising tide lifts all ships if you do it correctly in the wrestling business. Anyway, I think that can be a thing. So I'm all in. I'm all here for it. I'm happy that they're giving these guys a showcase. Looking forward to seeing them in Vegas and beyond.
The post G1 lull has officially ended, and I feel like we've broken out into some exciting times going into Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm happy for it. It felt like we were just kind of running the same circles with God and Bullet Club and House of Torture and just 5 guys, and we've broken out of it. We got some new matchups. We got some new dynamics going up. I'm here for it. I'm excited. I'm refreshed. I'm re-energized, and I'm looking forward to doing this again all in one more week, man.
We will be back next Thursday as we preview Fighting Spirit Unleashed, talk about Junior Tag League, and a whole lot more. You know, there's going to be more things announced and other news. And in the meantime, we'll cover it all right here in Speaking of Strong Style. Want to say thank you to everybody who joined us live on YouTube. Thank you so much. Want to thank everybody who listened to us on the podcast feed. Again, like you said, rate us, leave us a review. All those things help us get our shows out into the algorithm. So
I'd like to thank my dog, who clearly has no patience in the world for anything other than what he's got going on.
Mine's sound asleep somewhere. All right. Well, in the meantime, we're going to wrap this one up for this week. For Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. Thanks again for joining us for Speaking of Strong Style, and we'll talk to you all again very soon.